Welcome everybody to the Indie Pod podcast. I'm your host, Super Joe Pardo, and I'm hoping that I didn't just wake up my daughter in the other room. This week, I have a great guest who made her MapCon speaking debut at the last MapCon 5. Before I get to introduce our guest and we talk about Activism. Podtivism. That's what I was looking. Podtivism, activism, podcasting with activism. It's going to be great, and get your questions answered by our guest and myself. I have a few announcements to make. First off, if you're watching this live, thank you for taking the time. I know we're a little late here on Wednesday night, recording this live on Facebook Live. Pop in the chat where you're listening from if you're listening live. Let's see. We have the Indie Pod conference taking place in Philadelphia, South Swedesboro, New Jersey, September 26th or 24th to the 26th, 2020. It's not too early to get your ticket. You can get it right now. Save 10% off if you go to indiepodcon.com/register. We use IPP as your promo code. That's promo code IPP. Get 10% off. You can also use that same promo code IPP at our podcaster merch store. Go to indiepodcon.com/shop to save 10% off. There's like stickers and hats and shirts, and there's going to be more things. I just haven't had time. It's been a little backed up and busy here. And if you would like to be a guest on the Indie Pod podcast, go to indiepodcon.com/guest to secure your spot. I think there's like 2 spots left in May at this point. But now as we're getting closer to 2020, I will be opening up another round of spots for people to sign up and be a guest. And real quick shout out, if you haven't checked it out, go to indiepodcon.com/SAP. If you want to learn how to start your podcast, it's the brand new ultimate guide. It's ridiculous. I forget how many words it is at this point, but it's a lot of words. It's a lot of YouTube videos, and it's a lot of knowledge. And even if you already have a podcast, there's some pretty in-depth things, topics written about in there. So go check it out. And one last thing, I'll talk a little more about this, but our first ever Indie Pod weight loss game through Diet Bet just wrapped up, and apparently there was a winner. I thought I was going to be able to pull it off. I thought I was going to be able to lose 4% of my body weight in 4 weeks. And unfortunately, due to my son going in the hospital twice, one of them being overnight, me getting sick, and Thanksgiving being all in that short period of time of 4 weeks, I was not able to meet that goal. But that doesn't mean that I'm giving up. That just means I'm moving the marker to January 2nd. So while the link is indiepodcon.com/loser, it doesn't currently work for the next game for you to buy in. So just be on the lookout. I'll probably get that. I was trying to get it done before we got on the call here, but I would stay on the lookout for that. By next week, I'll be making some posts in the group trying to get people recruited. It's January 2nd. Do all your partying, all your eating, all your, whatever you do during the holiday season, and then we'll see you on the other side in January to lose 4% of your body weight in 4 weeks. I did lose 5 pounds, so it was not all for naught, but it wasn't. It just wasn't enough for me, unfortunately. And shout out to Lou, who says good evening, Joe, and good evening to my guest on my left over here. You're right. Anyway, my guest today, my guest co-host is a podivist.
Podtivist.
Podtivist. I forget the the podtivist. The podtivist. Okay. Podtivist. And she found out about MapCon just like a couple weeks prior to MapCon happening, and made it happen and got here. Everybody give it up for Heather Warburton. Woo!
Hey, everybody. I'm glad to be here tonight. Thanks for having me, Joe.
You are so very welcome. I am very happy to have you. Please fill people in what makes you awesome.
Oh, I guess there's a lot of things that make me awesome, but really, my podcast and what I try to do is I've been an activist for years now, like, trying to change the world. I I don't lie about it. I'm very upfront that I try to think convincing everyone else to become an activist too. One of those, if I can do it, anyone can do it sort of thing. And through being an activist, I realized I was not getting any media coverage. We would be doing these really awesome, amazing actions, and no one was covering us because we didn't really fit the traditional narrative of, we're out there being having an anti-capitalist or a socialist message, trying to like make workers' rights better. And this is just not that doesn't sell advertising a lot. So that we kind of decided that we were going to just cover ourselves and all of our friends too, was why me and my business partner, we started our network, New Jersey Revolution Radio. And out of that, I started my podcast, Wine, Women, and Revolution, which is kind of like a women's take on the revolution. And it's really been amazing, the guests that we've been able to get on the show, and just really spreading, kind of creating our own kind of counterculture, you might say, is one of our goals of, they're not going to cover us, but we're going to show up and we're going to cover all these amazing actions. We go out we live stream from events. So it's a lot of fun, and we really get to interact with the community a lot.
I love that. I mean, that's really the heart and soul of podcasting is that, and Todd talked a great deal about this during his talk at MapCon 5, and about how, nobody owns RSS feeds, or there are no real gatekeepers per se. And so there's no like YouTube. I mean, yeah, there's Apple, and that's like the most popular way to get the feed in a lot of ways, but it's not the only way. They don't control. If your audience is serious about it, they can they can make it happen. They can get it.
Yeah, it's one of the last independent media outlet, like really out there, that it really is very free and open, that you can pretty much put out whatever message it is that you think will have an audience.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. And it's in the same vein as like blogging, right? Because there's no gatekeeper there per se. You can get hosting. You can host your own. Like, you don't even need to, you can have your own server at your house and run your blog, and technically nobody could come and take it away from you. I mean, your domain name could get, shut down per se, but even then there's people could find out about, put out your IP address and like have people go straight there. And then of course your I guess Comcast in some cases, or wherever your ISP could be a problem, but there's always another way. You can encrypt it. You could go to the dark web. There are so many ways to do it.
Thankfully, we don't have to go quite that far,
No,
where you
not yet, at
Lives.
So let's talk about, when you're doing stuff at like activist events, like so you're podcasting live at events, like protests and stuff?
I pre-record a show that I put out every 2 weeks, and my business partner does a live show every Wednesday night, so he's actually on opposite me right now on our network. But we also go out to activist events. Like yesterday I was out at it was an immigrants' rights rally, trying to get driver's licenses for undocumented immigrants here in the state of New Jersey. So I was live streaming. They had all their speakers, standing out in like the pouring rain, live streaming. And it really provided a service for them, because they got a couple of local media outlets there, but there was no continuous live stream from start to finish. So they're able to share that around. Like, here's all the great speakers we had. Here's our message. At one point in time, the police showed up. So my
Oh.
live stream was actually providing a layer of protection for these
Mm.
activists, because anything that happened, it was, I was very vocal, like, oh, we're live streaming this. The cops knew it, all the people there knew it. And it provided, make sure that all the interactions were well publicized. And it ended up,
Mm.
the cops were like, okay, you guys are dispersing anyway. And they just left. So it was sort of a non-issue.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that. I think it's very. How do you go about deciding what kind of events to attend and cover? How do you figure out where the line is to draw?
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm an anti-capitalist activist. I fight for social justice, for immigrant rights, for racial justice. So anything in those sort of lines, and we have a lot of allied organizations that have similar philosophies to us. And,
Mm.
pretty much we basically just my business partner and I make the final decision. We are in charge of what goes on to our network, but we're pretty much, I think everybody kind of knows whether they align with us or not. If you've watched a couple of shows or listened to anything that we do, we aren't, like I said, we're not secretive about what our goals are.
Well, clearly, I mean, you're talking about it right now, and I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that
I'm a leftist,
yeah, no, well, clearly, and I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's the great thing about America. So, it's. I mean, this isn't about this
Mhm.
specific show isn't about politics, but it is about the message and about how to get that message out. Because just like you're saying that, like, you aren't getting the coverage about the things that you felt were important. There's people on the right that conservatives that have been taken off YouTube. I mean, well, I would, for some of them, I would say conservatives, because some of them are really like wingnuts. But I think it's important that to note that, like, hey, as podcasters, as people who want to get a message out, regardless of what that message is, I think it's important that we can all come together under the fact that we have the freedom to be able to publish and be heard. Kind of like in the same vein as like Twitter being the Wild Wild West for, like, say, like Egypt, when that was like going all topsy turvy, and other countries that are in turmoil. They have that outlet to rally and connect, and podcasting is that way for you to be like, hey, this is my it's my voice. It's another way of getting the medium out and hearing people's voices, and that's powerful. Like that, to me,
Oh,
it's
yeah, it's so
super
important
powerful.
to have something like that you can use, and it's an organizing tool as well. You go on every week and you're like, okay, we're having this event, come out if this is something you're interested in or that you support. And that really helps spread that message around more so than maybe just if you were posting something on, Facebook or Twitter, having like videos that people can interact with, and really interacting with you and knowing kind of who you are and what you stand for. And podcasting gives you that great sort of dialogue that you may not have just posting on, a couple of paragraphs on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, it puts a voice to the mission, right? Whatever that mission is, or whatever you're trying to accomplish. Which, people, it's eyes, ears, nose, mouth, like like the five senses. If you're tackling at least one of them, it's so much more impactful than just like reading the words. So, how do you go about making? I mean, you say business partners, so like, how do you go about making activism into into a business?
Well, we're not super financially successful,
Well,
I've
that I
readily,
mean, look,
but we ask for donations.
success is subjective.
We tell people that we are here to try to be a voice for the activist community. And if that's something you find valuable, then, help us chip in a couple of bucks a month, because, costs for hosting and everything that we do, getting out to events, does cost us money. So rather than it coming out of our pockets, we ask people to chip in a few dollars, and we have side hustles for our side hustles. That's kind of the economy that we're in. We make contacts with people. We do web design on the side. We do graphic art. I'm also a photographer is my day job as well. And my business partner came out of union organizing. So that's sort of he does organizing, he does events. So yeah, your side hustle for your side hustle for your side hustle.
Well, what tell me, is there like a story that you have from, because of podcasting we were able to help accomplish, or we were a part of accomplishing, or something to that effect?
Well, you don't get a whole lot of successes on the left, but we've actually been fairly successful with a few actions that we have taken off the mantle of doing. We fought against water privatization in a local community. A large water company wanted to come in and take over the water resource, and we managed to fight that off. We managed to get the local freehold in New Jersey. If you're not from New Jersey, kind of your county committee is called the freeholders. And it's really just your county committee, and they pass county-wide regulations. We managed to organize around that and prevent them from passing what was a fairly racist legislation. We show up and we live stream, and they actually pulled that legislation because we had a large enough group of people there and from the immigrant community. So we do have a couple of good successes that we've had. We managed to get there was a pretty unpleasant rally that was conference that was being held locally. And we created enough of a stir around that the theater that was hosting them didn't allow them to have that conference there. And there were some pretty nasty people there, like people that were pedophilia advocates. Like it was gross.
I didn't think you were going there. I just assumed you were going to talk about somebody that was like on the right or something, but that's, I think we
can.
I think
these were some pretty universally detestable people.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, there were also like some far right, but some of these people were really just gross people that you would not want to come into your community.
Why would they want to be associated with those types of people? I don't.
I'm not even gonna. It's not a happy topic.
No.
So we've had some successes. We've actually been fairly happy with some of the successes we've managed to have. We know we're not the most powerful yet, but we're always building and building and building, and that's kind of the goal. We've only been around maybe about a year and a half so far, and I think we're up to like over like 1,600 followers now. Like it's building. There's people want a different opinion and differing voices outside of just what you get from that very sanitized mainstream centrist. People have passions and opinions, and they like to hear about other people with passions and opinions.
Absolutely. Now, Ambition the Poet. What's up, Ambition? Good to hear from you. Said, hey, Heather, she was so nice to me on her podcast. Great guest.
Ambition was great. Yeah, he's probably going to be coming up on my show around Christmas. Is probably when the episode with Ambition's going to come up on my show.
That is awesome. I will definitely have to make it a point to listen to that. And so if you have a question, see, like this new ticker is a thing that like right as I logged in to StreamYard, they were like, oh yeah, look, we have tickers now, so I can stream, or I can tick a question, thing across
that's
the
very
bottom
cool. I'm gonna have to
while
look into
still prompting this. Yeah, this is it is very powerful. Hey man, so when it comes to when it comes to how you stream live, are you just using your phone, or do you got like a rig, or what are you using?
Well, when we're out at events, it's just your phone with a microphone on top of it on a tripod somewhere. That's usually if I'm hosting events, that's what we use. Now there have been, if we're doing something we've really planned out, something that we are specifically organizing, it's fairly complicated, but my business partner does this all the time, that he uses some kind of software that goes on your computer. Like we use Zoom to do the patching people in, and then something else that sends it out, like some sort of I think it's PDX or something like that sends it out to all the different Facebook or YouTube, all those. So it's a big software web that I don't really get into. I like to just record my shows, and then take the time and edit them and not really do the whole live thing for my specific shows. And then the stuff in the field is just a phone. Keep it pure and simple.
Well, yeah, I mean, because obviously I wouldn't necessarily want to be taking out like thousands of dollars of equipment to like things where it might be raining, there might
Mhm.
be a riot, there might be, things can happen very rapidly, and then you realize, then you're like the person sitting there with I mean, I've been there with DJing, right? Like, you get done the party and like a fight breaks out, and you're like, nobody else has a horse in this race but me, and I'm the guy with like $5,000 worth of equipment and records, and I need to just get out of here. Like, but I can't because things are heavy, right? And yeah, I have a great story about that. But you know, it makes a lot of sense to go as light as possible, and just be able to grab and go and some get the heck out of there when things
Right,
go
and there might
sideways.
be a march, like, if somebody's marching somewhere, you don't wanna carry really heavy stuff with you, and like you said, things are dynamic in these, rallies and protests, like, something may be happening over here, and then we gotta run, like, a block away and do something over here, or, "Oh, well, this is happening over there," like, you've gotta keep it light and dynamic when you're really deep
Yeah.
into the activism, world.
Are you turning those live streams into podcast episodes, or at least clipping them, like pieces of them, I guess?
Yeah, I do, the stuff that I live stream, I always turn it into a podcast or at least a post on our page, and I'll embed the videos and, like, write up an article about it. My business partner doesn't always do that with his. It depends on what the, live stream or the feed is about.
Hmm. And so when you're what was I gonna say? Is it do you, so when you're getting involved, have you had any pushback from the people that you're trying to help by give exposure to? Have
Like,
you
they don't
run
want
into that?
exposure, you mean,
Yeah,
kind of
like,
a thing?
well, it's just kind of I know it's kind of an odd question, like, a odd thing, right? Because, like, you're protesting, so, like, you're putting yourself up, like, you're putting yourself out there, right? You're getting up on the soapbox, like, you're making yourself visible, but have you had any pushback at all?
No, because generally we don't just surprise people. Usually it's people that we show up, they want us there, we don't really
Mm,
necessarily kind of show up and like kamikaze it. Like we definitely work with the organizations. I'm not one of those impartial media people. Like just the thing I was at yesterday, they're handing out buttons for people to wear. And the guy comes over and I was standing next to somebody from like the local press that was a
mhm.
photographer. And the guy's like, do you want a button? He's like, no, no. He goes to me, do you want a button? I'm like, yeah, I want a button. Like they know that I'm friendly towards them. I don't go and cover stuff that I'm opposed. I don't give my airtime to things that I don't believe in.
Mm,
It's my airtime. I want to highlight and be positive and look at this awesome person doing this awesome thing, kind of is where I come
mm.
from it. So they know I'm not coming in there to be contrary to them. I'm coming in there as supportive, and they generally are really appreciate that we're there.
So, yeah, so that makes sense, right? Like, you're not trying to be the opposite talking head of you know, opposite side of the
Right.
aisle that, you sit from, so and I think that, no, I think that probably helps you a lot in the sense that, like, people aren't going to necessarily, um, try to combat you in that sense, in that,
Right.
in a debating kinda way, or, like, because you're not coming at it from that place of, like, "How do I get more airtime?" Well, I just gotta go harder on how I feel and put you down for the way that you feel, and I mean, I mean, to me, that doesn't
Yeah,
get
that's a
very
very
far.
confrontational style that isn't really what I go in for. Because I really just wanna highlight all the awesome stuff. I know a lot of that's the thing, I know a lot of really amazing people. I get to interact with really cool, really great, really passionate people, and if I get to help highlight their story and bring it to more people, then that's like a job well done for me. I wanna really share, "Look at all these great people doing great stuff."
Oh, I know the feeling. I mean, starting the Dreamers podcast was all about highlighting other people doing more awesome things than I was. So it makes a lot of sense to try and put yourself out there in that positive light rather than how can I give the hot take that's just gonna
Right.
get under people's skin.
There's enough people doing that too. The world doesn't need me doing that, you know?
Well, especially if that's not what's in your heart, right? Like that's because that's a quick way to burn out in
Mm.
what you do is doing stuff. It's like, yeah, I love podcasting, but like I don't love the fact that I have to um act in a way or talk in a way or be a way that I don't really agree with. It brings to mind like Jerry Springer talks about like the fact that like the life that he lives on the TV show is literally just a TV show. His life is so much not that show at all. It's quite boring and quite like the opposite. Just um he shared a story on WIP talking about like how he's like, oh, I hate walking through the airport because like everyone sits there and chants Jerry, Jerry, and it's like only 10 seconds, but like everybody's doing it, so I'm hearing it all the way through the darn airport. I can't get away from it, but when you live it's hard sometimes to live that life of something that isn't really inside of you. And you want the positive, especially when you want the positive to come out of it.
Yeah, I have no persona. I am not a polished, professional in any way, shape, or form. I'm just me, and this is stuff I'm really passionate about. And I just hope people get that passion, then really like caring about the world and wanting to help make it a better place. That's what I want people to hear when they talk to me, because that's who I am in real life too.
Well, that's all, and I think it came across to me when we got to talk at MapCon a little bit, and hearing your talk and getting to know more about you. I'm glad that there's people out there that are passionate enough to stand up and go and do something about the things that they're passionate about, rather than just sitting around at their day job complaining about about other
Right.
people complaining about things. It's like a feedback loop, in my opinion. Lou Hastings, what's up, Lou? It says, Heather, activism is not for the faint-hearted. Were you ever covering an event that put you in an uncomfortable or dicey situation? If you can share.
Well, back to that convention that we were talking about earlier, where the theater pulled, holding that conference, but
Mm-hmm.
there was a local brew pub that still hosted their after party. And now there were legitimate, like, I mean, I guess I'll be nice and call them alt-right instead of calling them Nazis, but there were legitimate, like, scary, like, Proud Boys and some of those organizations that you've heard of that are causing physical harm to people. They're not just intimidating, but they're actually going out there and like physically beating people up and injuring people. And we knew they were going to be at this bar, yet we were still across like this. There were cops that's kind of separated the area. So we were on one side of the road, and the people at this bar, they're drinking, because what's worse better than a Nazi is a drunk Nazi.
Well, it's a bar too.
Right. And it was an open bar party that they'd paid money to go
Oh.
and drink all that they could drink. And we're sitting across like the street from them on this bench, like live streaming with, a whole bunch of community members, but no one's like a professional fighter or anything. And we're all just like, well, what's going to happen here? So it was scary. Like some people, their wives were upset that they were out there like, oh, you're going to get killed tonight. You're going to get killed. I mean, ultimately nothing did happen. We were very lucky that while we were all there, nothing came of it, that they didn't really come over. They came over to like hassle us vocally, but no one came over physically to attack us. But we didn't know what was going to happen that night. And, we had the live streams going as protection yet again, that, oh, if somebody gets injured, it's, whoever did it, it's going to be publicized.
It's on the internet. It's pretty much forever at that point.
Right.
It's not just local on the phone. It's forever
Yeah.
on the
So
internet.
there were some scared people, some people that did not, were not comfortable being there, but they showed up anyway. That's the important thing. They showed up to protect their community.
Man, Lou says that is scary. Yeah, Yeah, it's like a powder keg, it's just waiting for somebody to do the wrong thing, and then spark other people to do the wrong thing. And next thing you know, they're standing around with their tiki torches, and that's a joke. But anyway, yeah, so I'm glad that nothing terrible happened there, or continues to not you know not happen on you. Not knock on
Yeah.
IKEA wood, whatever kind of cardboard
Well, I do
thing.
too. Part of it is how I come at it. Like I'm not coming at it looking to debate you or have like an altercation with you. I'm
They're
there.
drunk. I don't think that's gonna work.
And we knew kind of what we were getting into. There was a lot of planning that went into it. We didn't just show up randomly. We had planned for, weeks ahead of time, like, okay, what's our plan? If something does go bad, what's our plan? So I think there's a lot of, the back end of stuff that has to be done to make sure everyone's safe. But it doesn't make it
Yeah.
unscary. Just, you plan for as much as you can and then hope for the best.
Yeah. I don't. It does take a lot of courage, especially, I mean, as journalists and stuff go into, put themselves in harm's way, dangerous situations, both abroad and domestic. Like it takes a special kind of person to really care about what they're trying to produce, to be like, hey, I know that this might not go the way that we all would like it to go, but we're going to do it anyway because it needs to be shown, or it needs to be, you know, shown is. I was about to say another word for cinnamon for shown, but synonym for show, not cinnamon. I'm very tired at this point. For to put it out. All right, I'm gonna stop talking. Anyway,
But no, I think for me, it feels kind of like going in there with the camera is, I'd already been doing this stuff for years before I started going in there and broadcasting it. So broadcasting it was kind of almost a logical extension of what I was already doing. It wasn't something I didn't set out. I'm, doing something alien to myself just to broadcast it. Like I was already there doing this stuff.
Oh, so you've been how long have you been an activist before starting the podcast?
Well, I mean, I guess I've always been one of those very political people. Like I organized protests back when I was in high school, like our principal was getting fired and we organized a protest outside the school board.
Really?
Yeah, and high school was a long time ago. so, so I've always been one of those political people. But, I guess like being heavily into activism and direct actions and things like that, it's probably maybe like going on 5 years now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Whereas, we've only had the media company about 1.5
years. Well, what was the spark for it?
For getting into activism?
No, for getting into the media company around it.
Well, this is a funny story. This one's really funny. My business partner is also one of my best friends in the world. He's a really great guy. And he started just like his therapist had said, record yourself ranting about things that annoy you. And so he decided he was going to record himself ranting and start publishing them, that which was not going above and beyond what his therapist had said. So he was recording himself ranting on the way to work, like 10, 15 minutes about, this is what's annoying me today. And like, I really saw something in there. I'm like, I think that there's a future in doing this here. And I'm going to get involved in this, whether you want me or not. And he's like, no, of course I want you. So it kind of just grew out of that of like, well, I can record myself ranting about things that annoy me. But then right off the bat, I just started in with interviewing people that I liked instead of ranting about things that annoy me, letting other people rant about things that annoy them and me agreeing with. So that was kind of what sparked it. Was, he was just, I'm stuck in traffic or whatever he was complaining about at the time. And kind of it grew into this whole network of activist coverage.
So, so Lou asks, how far do you travel to attend events?
I generally do stuff in New Jersey. I mean, I would probably go to Philly because that's pretty close to me. And we actually attended Philly Podcast Festival.
Mm-hmm.
We did a live show there. So, probably without like around a 2-hour radius of where I live in South Jersey. And then my business partner and some of our other live streamers go up into New York all the time. They work with Extinction Rebellion. So they're up there covering
Say
protests there.
Extinction Rebellion.
Extinction Rebellion, yeah.
What is what
It's
is
an
like?
environmental organization.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was kind of thinking along that line, but I didn't know if we were talking about animals or like
No,
or
no, trying to
us
prevent human
humans.
extinction because
Yeah.
of catastrophic climate change.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so they covered like some of those activists shut down a bridge
Hmm.
or shut down like a street. So they went and covered that, you know, that
Hmm.
so we have some pretty awesome people that live stream for us. The farthest we had people go to DC. You know, they were going to DC anyway. And we're like, "Well, can you live stream for us while you were there?" Because they were people that were occupying the Venezuelan embassy to protect it from to get not to get into too much politics, but you
Right, right.
know, there were Code Pink and a couple of other organizations were occupying the Venezuelan embassy to protect it. So we had a person that went there to support them, and they live streamed while they were there.
Hmm. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about that.
Well, you have clearly not been listening to all of our episodes. Go back
Well,
about 6 months.
so admittedly, I really don't listen to podcasts. I could go all down that rabbit hole, but yeah, I and most people. I mean, obviously you don't know that, but a lot of people know that I don't. I try not to consume much content because I like to create content that's more of my voice and not
Mhm.
injecting other people's like thoughts and views and creativity and like stuff like that into it. Which is a bit, it does kind of stink, but it also stinks because like I don't really have the time right now to listen to audio because like my car ride is like less than 15 minutes, so each way. So like for me to start and then stop and then start and then stop and then start and stop and then there's no way with two little like a 1 and 3-year-old here. There's like no way to listen to anything while they're awake.
Right.
It's so yeah, so it's and I can't run with podcasts going on in my ears. It'd be I wouldn't be able to. It would be too boring for me. Gotta listen to music,
Ah.
but yeah. So so I apologize if you thought that I do, but it's not you, it's me. I just don't listen to a lot. Actually, pretty much any podcast, unfortunately. But let's see here. What the Lou says. Are most events scheduled out, giving you a decent amount of lead time to prepare, or do you find your company scrambling to cover and attend a lot of impromptu gatherings?
Yes and yes to both of those. There are things that we know about like weeks in advance. So we can never get to as many things as we want to get to because we are limited. You know, there's my business partner and myself, and then we have some comrades that go out and do live streams for us. But even that's maybe like 3, 4 other people in addition to us. We can't get to everything we want. And we do have to pick and choose here and there. But some people give us weeks worth of notice, but then also things happen. Sometimes things develop really quickly. And if one of us is available, we do try to scramble to get out to something. We don't get out to everything we want to, though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just depends on what the situation is and how dire, how quick things need to rally around. Sometimes you have, I guess, a couple weeks, and sometimes you have like probably 2 days notice.
Right. And when we host events ourselves, like I've been working on an event that's coming up at the end of January. I've been planning that since back in November. So I know I gave myself a lot of lead up time for that. You know, like, oh, okay, I can take this slow and leisurely and really plan it out just the way I want it. But other things, you know, like, oh, this just happened. We're bombing this country now, and people are rallying against it. That stuff happens quick.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it does happen quick. So I have I got a couple plugs I need to do here, and then we'll get back to some questions. If there's any other questions anybody has, pop them in the chat while you're watching. We are currently looking for some sponsors. I actually had a call earlier tonight with a potential sponsor, big time sponsor. Hopefully, I think they liked what they heard, and hopefully they'll sign on to be a partner. But we are looking for partners. If you would like to partner up and sponsor an episode of the show, or sponsor the conference, or anything in between, we're very much open to making that happen. Just go to indiepodcon.com/partners and you can get yourself like the media kit and learn more about Indie PodCon and the background and all the different packages and things that we have available for sponsorship. And what else we got here? Did I mention the group earlier? That you should totally be joining us in the Facebook group. If you haven't already, join us. Go to indiepodcon.com/group, drops you right into the Facebook group. Just click yourself to add in there, and I will approve you and get you on in here in the group. It's been growing very rapidly. We crossed 700 members last week and continuing to rise. About 1 to like 3 members a day, give or take. So I'm really pumped about the amount of people that are passionate about being an independent podcaster and wanting to get themselves into a caring family that we have here. Let me see. I do have another. So I mentioned it earlier. The weight loss, the Indie PodCon weight loss game. It was 4 weeks. It was $10, and we had 7 members of the Icon family join, myself included. And of the people that competed, we actually have a winner. So I don't know if I'm supposed to say the name or not, but I'm going to, because I know that he wouldn't mind. I assume he wouldn't mind. Of course, he wouldn't mind. The winner of the Independent Podcasters' first ever inaugural weight loss game is Clay Groves. Give it up for Clay Groves, because that means he lost 4% of his body weight. Now, I don't know what his body weight was, because I don't know if it was public. It was public, but I'm not going to say it just for the sake of being nice. But yeah, so he decided to commit and did it through Thanksgiving. Sadly, I was not able to do it, but to do it to that level. But I did lose 5 pounds in the process, and we will be doing another game starting on January 2nd. I got to get the link all together, but it's going to be at indiepodcon.com/loser, and I think it's going to probably go up to $15. And basically, you put your $15 in, you got 4 weeks to lose 4% of your body weight, and then you get the pot, like you get a portion of the pot. So Clay, I'm not sure how much Clay won, but the pot was at $70. So I'm guessing he probably won a good chunk of that $70, since he was the only one to complete his weight loss challenge, which that's phenomenal, man. I'm super proud of him. I mean, I'm proud of him regardless, but even more so that he was able to stay committed through it and made it happen. So so I'm looking forward to that. I'll get the link up. I'll put it in the Facebook group, and I'll be promoting it through leading up to January 2nd. So you get all your partying and everything in, all your cookies and your cakes and your pies and all that, and then we'll go big on starting January 2nd. Oh man. Okay, so
I just want to add too that it is a really great group, and I want to thank you for organizing this group. Like when I went to the first MapCon, that I went to this past one, I was intimidated because it was my first podcast conference at all. Like I had no idea what to expect, and you've really put together a great group, and I just wanted to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much, Heather. I really I appreciate you coming, making the decision to come and being a part and getting involved and wanting, I mean, getting involved. Of course you're going to get involved because that's what activists do. And getting involved with the group, the conference, being here tonight. It's greatly appreciated, and it's people like you who make it worth me going through all the all the hurdles to make all this happen. And so I really really appreciate that. And I'm happy to be able to bring people to get like I'm happy to bring people together in a way that look, we, in the Icon family, we have people who are on the left and we have people that are on the right. And it so far, fingers crossed, it will continue to not be a problem, because I feel that, I try to bring a nice middle ground together based around content creation, based around creativity, community building, talking about the things that you care about. Communication is the first and is the best line of defense that we have to violence, basically. Things turning into it doesn't have to be just violent in a physical way, but in a verbal way. Strong advocate for people to just talk. I mean, that's the whole podcasting thing, talk, right? And I just want people to feel like they have I don't want to say a safe space, because that's not really what I'm trying to create, but a place that they can feel comfortable at, a comfortable space that they can find out how to communicate their message better to the people that care about their message, because not everyone cares about everybody's messages.
Right. It's crafting your own message the best that you can. And it may not be the message for everybody. I know there's people that really would not like to hear what I have to say, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to want to hear, but I want to make the best message that I can for the people that do want to hear what I have to say. And I've learned really a lot from MapCom and from the group and stuff. So
well, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate that. Lou adds, Heather, I love the fact that you use citizen journalists for those events you can't get to, who are willing to share their content with you. I think it's a great achievement to be able to rally the activist community to share and collaborate. He goes on to say, I definitely need to utilize your methods to gather news and bring awareness in my genre for Indigenous issues, because I can't be everywhere also. And I think maybe you could talk about this a little bit in depth in rallying the troops to around something that because I imagine like they have their own platforms too, the people that you're working with.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody.
So how do you get them to like come over and say, okay, put it on, do something from my platform and forgo yours in this case?
Well, it's about collaboration too. Like if we share their stuff, even if we're not a part of it, like we have a calendar on our website that organizations can put their events, even events that we're not covering, we're not touching those events. We'll co-sponsor them. We'll put them on our calendar. We want to build a family. And so it's not really like, also I'm a socialist. I like to share things, like, that's where we're coming from, that we want to share information and share resources. We're a small community, especially like the leftist activist community. There's not that many of us. I know that we're not like a super prolific or super large group so it really is about building a community and looking out for each other. And it's not always what can you give to me. Sometimes it's just what can I give to you? Can I just show up and be an ally for you and never mention it, and stuff like that. Like, invest in your community if you want them to invest in you.
I don't know. Absolutely. I mean, I feel that, that's one of the reasons I'm here on Wednesday nights, right? Like, and doing everything that I can to build the community, build the bonds and get it all as tightly knit as possible, no matter how big or how small it actually is, as you put it. It's not necessarily going to have the biggest amount of people that are going to stand with you on every topic or any topic really. But having the people that do it's all important, right? One is more than zero, and
Right.
that is super important, especially when you're talking about topics that might not be the most popular. I mean, you could say the same thing about those pedophiles that showed up to stand with alt-right people. Like that's,
Yeah, that's a
I guess
kind
they're
of
going wherever they
unity,
can go to get the support. Like
Right.
more power to them, but no, no, thank you. Uh, so anyway, Heather, is there anything else you'd like to add about your journey as an activist podcaster, a podtivist? Did I get it right this
Well, I
time?
mean, mainly I'll restate my goal again is that if I'm doing it, you can do it too. Like, if you're thinking about doing it, just do it. Like, the person you're waiting for is you. You've got to get engaged if you want things to change. You've got to be the person that sparks that change. And you never know how big your impact is going to be. Like, maybe you're not the person out there leading the revolution, but maybe something you say sparks the person that does lead the revolution, Like, you have no idea who you're impacting and how much you're impacting. So if you're thinking about doing something, if you want, like, oh, somebody needs to make this better, you're that person that needs to make that better. And the time is now. The time was 5 years ago. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now,
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, you don't know, who's listening. And sometimes it's not so much about going, wide as it is about going deep. And because you don't know, like, your show might end up being listened to by somebody who has a huge, following. And next thing you know, it becomes very like, your words become even larger because they're put out there by somebody else who has that platform because they are looking for somebody too, because they're people. Last time I checked. So I think that's great. I think
Can I plug a couple of events
no,
before?
absolutely events, your website, go ahead.
All
Floor is
right.
yours.
So, again, our website is New Jersey Revolution Radio. You can find us www.njrevolutionradio.com. My specific show I put out every other Monday. It's Wine, Women, and Revolution. And we have two pretty big events coming up at the end of January. January 25th, we're having an Art and Activism Day. We're going to be having artists there. You can come and do some yoga. We're going to have an R&B artist at the end of the evening, and it's going to be open like 10 hours. Like, it's an all-day event of just surrounding yourselves with doing art and doing activism and community building.
Sounds like
And there's going to
Ambition
be
should be there.
food.
Sounds like
Sounds like what?
Ambition should be there.
I have talked to Ambition about being there because we do try. Last time we had some great spoken word artists at the last one that we did, and then the very next day, the Sunday, the 26th, down in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, I'm having a Weed, Women, and Wellness event.
Oh, okay.
Talking about women's relationship to the cannabis plant. It's been a very male-dominated industry historically. So we're having college professors there who are run a cannabis minor at their college, talking about opportunities. We're having some people that are opening dispensaries that are women or women of color. Who are talking about theirs. And we have people that run CBD, like lotions and CBD infused chocolates. And we're going to have a masseuse there giving chair massages and wine sampling. So it's kind of like a fun, like, girls' night out to talk about our relationship with cannabis. So
well, that I mean, that sounds quite involved. That's awesome.
Yeah, both of the events should be a lot of fun, and they're both free to attend. We like to have sponsors pay for our events so that we can make sure that the public, no matter what their economic situation is, they can come, they can get some food, they can get some education, they can have some fun. We try to make it as accessible for people as possible.
That is awesome. So it's a shame it's not really legal in Jersey yet.
Well, there's medical patients, and we obviously are,
Oh, okay. That is
there are a lot of people that are medical patients, and CBD
right.
is, CBD is
Yeah,
perfectly
yeah.
legal. You can get that. You can buy that at the gas station,
Yeah, yeah, you can.
um, but also that's one of our other activist causes is trying to get it decriminalized first, so we can stop arresting people for a plant.
Yeah. Well, Philly did that, right? They
Yeah,
decriminalized it, and
and
so I
Delaware's
think New
decrimmed
York
as
too,
well.
right? Oh,
Yeah.
really? Oh, wow. So I don't know what Jersey's waiting for. I think then our governor said that like the first 90 days it was going to be legalized. Well, I
Yep.
think it's been a little longer than 90 days if I know how the calendar works. But I haven't kept up on the specifics of it. Anyway,
I've taken you all over the place with this.
I
Talking about weed.
well, I mean, that's one of the great things about having a open format, questions and answers and guest co-hosting show, that I definitely don't really get when I have when I do the Dreamers podcast. So real quick, just want to plug, September 24th to 26th, you totally should come to IndiePodCon. Go to indiepodcon.com/register, save 10%, use the offer code IPP. You can use that same offer code, indiepodcon.com/shop. Get yourself some cool merchandise, hats and stuff, podcasting garb, if you will. Join our group, indiepodcon.com/group. It's, what's funny is I do this show in the direct opposite way that I do my other podcast, Dreamers Podcast, where it's like I have one call to action with Dreamers Podcast, but here we are. I have like 20. No, it's not 20. It's like 5, 10 call to actions, but I don't know. I'm not really worried about it. I know that I should have one, but with that said, here's another one. If you want to start a podcast or know somebody that does, I have a ultimate guide I wrote. It's like a ridiculous amount of words and a whole bunch of podcasts, or there's podcast episodes as well as past MapCon talks, all baked right into the guide. Excuse me, all baked into the guide. It's totally free. Go to indiepodcon.com/SAP. And if you would like to sponsor this show or this conference, go to indiepodcon.com/partners. Everybody, I hope you all have a great week. I hope everybody's getting their Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever else that I don't know about shopping done. Or Heather, do you do any shopping or are you done?
I do shopping. I'm done for the people I specifically have to buy for. My husband still has a few outstanding relatives he has to buy it for, but we're mostly done. I'd say we're a good 95% done.
Oh, that's great. It's only the 11th. It's like Christmas is like forever from now, but it's not. It's like 2
2
weeks from,
weeks
like,
away.
yeah, literally 2 weeks away now. Speaking of 2 weeks away, before we take a 2-week break, we have a special guest coming up next week on the 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern. It is Ross Brand. Did you get to meet Ross at MapCon, Heather?
Who was Ross? What was his show called?
So he is the live stream universe.
No, I didn't get to chat with him.
livestreamingdeals.com. He actually does the StreamYard podcast / live stream feed for StreamYard, which is pretty awesome. And he was just on at the NASDAQ doing being interviewed there like I think yesterday. So like he is turning into a even bigger deal. It is awesome. I'm looking forward to having a great conversation leading up to Christmas / New Year's break. And then we get back into it right after that on the, what is it? Not the first, it'll be the 8th. We will have the venerable Matthew Passy coming on board to the Indie Pod podcast. Everybody, I hope you have an amazing, amazing week ahead. I hope you get all your Christmas, Hanukkah, or whatever you got going on shopping done. And I will see you all next Wednesday. Thank you again, Heather.
Thanks. Good night.